Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? That real Slim Shady, my friends, is Mohammed bin Sulayem. In a recent interview, an exclusive with Autosport, he said, and I quote, "We have to differentiate between our sport, motorsport, and rap music. We're not rappers, you know. They say the F word how many times per minute? We're not that. That's them, and we are us, as in Formula One or racers or motorsport." Now, this message was part of a broader message where the FIA has asked Formula One to reduce the amount of foul language that's broadcast on TV. And so, in giving out this message, Mohammed bin Sulayem dropped this language, right? And there are many elements of it that we can go through, but there are three things that stand out. My first instinct with listening to this message being dropped smack dead in the middle of one of the most fabulous runs that we've had in any Formula One season, that is this season, 2024, is that Mohammed bin Sulayem has been itching to be in the limelight. And he has figured out, yet again, with great success, how to insert himself in the midst of an otherwise great season where no one really cared about him. And this is just amazing. It is amazing. So to him, I say first and foremost, you are a look at me, Louis, sir. That's all you're trying to do here, because even if you wanted this foul language to be reduced, this was not the way to do it. You put this out there in this interview to garner some attention. Kudos to you. There you have it. We're talking about you. Now, second thing, and this is probably the most egregious part of it, it's the use of the word rappers in there. And this is amazing, right? Because we live in a hypersensitive socio-political environment today where people cannot agree on virtually anything, right? But the use of the reference of rappers as the others, or the people we don't want to be, or we don't want Formula One drivers to be, is simply amazing. It's simply amazing that it came to his mind, right? And he places this in the context of being a parent who might be sitting down watching a race weekend with their child and seeing I guess the radio messages come in where there's a lot of bleeping happening because, guess what? Formula One drivers are just sitting around on their couches and talking to one another, having a good time, right? That's all they're really doing, and that's why they're saying the kind of language that they are. And so his contention is, what kind of message does that send? Are we being great role models? Yada yada yada. Now I have so many objections with it, but I think I don't have enough time to go through all of this. And this is, by the way, a fantastic race weekend that in Singapore. So I would leave it up to all of you to go out and do some Googling, if you will, and figure out all the various ways in which he, Mohammed bin Sulayem, has hurt Formula One standing and hurt Formula One drivers also in being great global citizens. By the way, this is the guy who put a clampdown on drivers not being able to speak their mind, essentially by saying no politics, no religion, no yada yada yada, which is basically a shortcut way of saying don't say anything, just shut up and drive, right? That's kind of the equivalent of it. So when this guy comes back and makes that comparison with rappers, I find that to be truly amazing, and really this is cultural appropriation, really. And I don't want to speak a whole lot about it necessarily because it just leads us in different ways. I, by the way, love the good old days where we could talk about British bias in Formula One. We do not want to be talking about cultural appropriation. Finally, on the point of the rappers, who doesn't love rappers? We see rappers at Formula One races all the freaking time. That's allowed, no? Yeah. And finally, my final thing to Mohammed bin Sulayem, who himself has been a race car driver, a racing driver with some really good credentials as well. For us to ask Formula One drivers in the heat of the moment, driving damn near 300 plus kilometers an hour, 200 plus miles an hour, putting their life on the line, split second, you could be gone, right? Like none of us outside of those 20 drivers, none of us do anything in our lives, or most of us anyway, do anything in our lives that comes remotely close to it. So if I'm sitting there with my kid and consuming Formula One races, and I'm telling them why this is happening, it's no different than being in a high stress environment where they're saying things they wouldn't say otherwise, right? So it's amazing. I don't need you, Mohammed bin Sulayem, to tell me how to parent my kid. That's my job. If I don't want them to hear that, I'll mute Or I'll go through a different view. Heck, I've already been told to buy a subscription to F1 TV Pro. Let's just cut out the whole broadcast itself and run another stream that's kid friendly. Or better yet, if you really want to solve the problem of parents and kids, make a kid friendly broadcast version, make it be available for every race. How about that for a solution, Mohammed bin Sulayem? Right? And so finally, we have seen drivers respond, two of them, two of the most prominent ones, right? Lewis Hamilton coming out and saying that this is there are racial undertones to it. And rightly so, Lewis has spoken up about many things in the past, so this is not unnatural. But for me, the driver that gets the prize is Max Verstappen. And if you haven't had the chance to watch the driver's press conference from Singapore, I believe he was in the second group, go watch that. He drops in an F bomb in the middle of his comments on purpose. And guess what? He has been reprimanded for that and has to do some kind of community service. Well, what a bleep show that all of this is, right? Finally, Mohammed bin Sulayem, be careful. Guess who's headlining musical acts at the Austin Grand Prix, which comes right after this? One Eminem. So I ask you again, Mohammed bin Sulayem, will the real Slim Shady please stand up?